All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. It's the overview of the Tennessee Principal and Supervisor of the Year Part 1 application. I'm Sarah Brown. I'm the Coordinator of Educator Recognition and Communications. I'm on the Educator Effectiveness team in the Office of Academics. Here we have, I just skipped over our Best for All squares. I don't know why they are not showing up. Our agenda today, we're going to review the region level selection process. We're going to go over Part 1 application components, including response questions and addressing common missteps. We're also going to talk about the video response questions and best practices in supporting documentation and best practices. We'll also talk about Part 1 scoring and then also have a Q&A at the end. Additionally, there is more information in the Principal and Supervisor of the Year guidebooks, which are on the website, the Principal and Supervisor of the Year website. If you have any questions, you can go to those as well as another resource. The Tennessee Principal of the Year program recognizes and honors outstanding school leaders across Tennessee. We applaud principals who demonstrate superior abilities in managing and motivating students and faculties, evoking high standards, demonstrating a commitment to excellence, implementing innovative programs, and having a track record of exceptional gains in student learning. The Tennessee Supervisor of the Year program recognizes and honors outstanding district leaders across Tennessee. We applaud supervisors across all disciplines who demonstrate superior abilities in managing and motivating students and staff, evoking high standards, demonstrating a commitment to excellence, implementing innovative programs, and having a track record of exceptional gains in student learning. Our learning objectives for today. Following the completion of this training, learners will be able to identify the components of the Tennessee Principal and Supervisor of the Year Part 1 applications and identify best practices for approaching each component. A few norms. Please remain on mute throughout the session until asked to unmute and share. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat. With that, let's go to the chat. What is one thing you hope to gain from this session? Learning what types of documentation can be uploaded, a clear understanding of all the components of the application process. We will definitely cover both of those pieces. Any others? All right, we'll move forward. All right, so the region level selection process. After you've been nominated at the district level, you must complete Part 1 application by March 4th to continue to the region level selection process. You can find the Part 1 application on the Tennessee Principal and Supervisor of the Year websites, as well as in the direct email I sent to you. The Part 1 application contains basic information about yourself and your school or district, 2 written response questions, 1 video response question, and an optional opportunity to submit up to 5 pages of supporting documentation. After all applications are submitted by March 4th, regional scoring committees will identify 1 region level semifinalist in each of the 3 grade bands for each of the 9 regions for a total of 27 region level semifinalists across the state. All region level applicants will be notified of their application decision by April 12th. Now let's dive a bit more deeply into Part 1 application components. There are three main components of the Part 1 application. The first section is the basic information. It's not scored, and it includes demographic information. So information about your professional background and school and/or district information. Please note the demographic information will not be shared with the review committee. And the Tennessee Principal and Supervisor of the Year will be selected without regard to race, color, religion, sex, age, or national origin, and will not be discriminated against on the basis of disability. This information is primarily collected for program monitoring and evaluation purposes. The second section, response questions, includes 2 written responses that are limited to 750 words each, and we will explore those questions more deeply in the following slide. Yes, your years of experience should include this year. The third section is 1 video response limited to 5 minutes total. We will also explore this component more deeply later in the presentation. And lastly, the fourth section is optional supporting documentation. Supporting documentation is permitted to provide additional evidence for references made in your extended responses. Some examples of supporting documentation include student success data, project plans, parent or community communications materials, etc. The supporting documentation is completely optional, and choosing not to submit supporting documentation will not penalize the applicant in any way. If you choose to submit supporting documentation, documentation is limited to 5 pages maximum. Any documentation over this maximum will not be provided to reviewers. To go back to the chat and please answer true or false. Basic information will not be shared with the review committee. Correct. Basic information will not be shared with the review committee. All right. So Principal of the Year, I realized that was not a true false question. We just went with it. I thought we fixed that. All right. So let's look more closely at the response questions on the Part 1 application. Applicants will respond to 2 response questions that each have 750 word limit. The questions are very similar but differ across programs based on the applicant's role. For Principal of the Year, applicants will respond to the following prompts. How do you strategically engage with community stakeholders to support your school's mission, vision, and goals? How do you define diversity within your school and community? In this context, what does it mean to have a commitment to diversity as a school leader? How have you applied this commitment in your school and community? And for the Supervisor of the Year applicants, you're going to respond to the following prompts. How do you strategically engage with community stakeholders to support your district's mission, vision, and goals? And how do you define diversity within your district and community? In this context, what does it mean to have a commitment to diversity as a district leader? How have you applied this commitment in your district and community? So the Tennessee Principal of the Year Guidebook for applicants and the Tennessee Supervisor of the Year Guidebook for applicants includes guidance and exemplars to help you craft your Part 1 application, including this checklist of questions to help you address common missteps. Though a strong response may look different for each written prompt, these guiding questions can help you ensure that components of your application complement one another and give the most comprehensive view of your excellence as a leader. So are you answering the question? So take time to unpack the question and think about what it's asking. Ask someone else to read your response and ask if they can determine the question being addressed. And are you answering all parts of the question? Use the unpacking strategy from the guidebook to ensure that you planned for and address all parts of the prompt with sufficient detail. Are you giving a comprehensive picture of yourself as a leader throughout our responses? Try to avoid using the same example or idea in your response to each question. Your goal is to give a complete picture. Are you writing to show what leadership and learning looks like in your school or district? Make sure to write to show and not to tell. Use examples and stories of things that students, parents, or colleagues have said or done. Show how your work influenced the learning and the growth of others through examples and evidence. Highlight your accomplishments rather than being humble about them. Write through the word count in your draft. Often it takes writers some time to get the best part of their responses, so begin by writing more than you need, then strategically edit to meet the word count. Additionally, outlining your response will assist in the writing of your response. Now let's look more closely at the video response question. On part 1 application, applicants will respond to one video response question with a 5-minute time limit. The questions are very similar but differ across programs based on the applicant's role. For Principal of the Year, applicants will respond to the following prompt. What is the story of your school and what role do you play in that story? Include evidence to support your response. For Supervisor of the Year, applicants will respond to the following prompt. What is the story of your district and how have you played a role in that story? Include evidence to support your response. The Tennessee Principal of the Year Guidebook for applicants and the Tennessee Supervisor of the Year Guidebook for applicants include guidance and exemplars to help you craft your Part 1 application, including a checklist of questions to help you address common missteps. Can I go backwards? It looks like I went backwards in my, oh, no, I didn't. It's just the same thing. So use the checklist of questions to address common missteps when drafting your video response script. So maximize the quality of your audio. Clear audio is critical to a great video. If possible, be sure to record in a quiet room and use earbuds with a microphone. If you're not able to use an external microphone or earbuds, stay within 1 to 1.5 feet of the microphone on your recording device. Follow all school and district level media policies. If you choose to include photos or videos of students, please ensure you are following all school and district level media policies. As a best practice, all students featured in your video should have a current media release on file. Back to that chat. So please answer the following question in the chat. True or false? Video quality and composition will be a scored component of the video response. Correct. False. Video responses will only be scored on the basis of your spoken response. All right, so now let's look at the second optional scored component, supporting documentation. Supporting documentation is permitted to provide additional evidence for references made in your extended responses. Some examples of supporting documentation include student success data, project plans, parent or community communication materials. You could include photos. Please ensure all supporting documentation adheres to your school and or district's privacy policies. So remembering those media releases, it's important to note that the application, including supporting documentation, will be redacted for identifying information to reduce potential unconscious bias. As such, it's best to ensure your supporting documentation is still easily understood without logos or names or specific addresses. Supporting documentation is completely optional, and choosing not to submit supporting documentation will not penalize the applicant in any way. But if you choose to submit supporting documentation, documentation is limited to 5 pages maximum for the Part 1 application. Additionally, applicants should consider the following best practices when compiling supporting documentation. Directly connect supporting documentation to the written responses, but do not rely on supporting documentation to make your case. Supporting documentation should not be a substitute for high quality explanation in the narrative, nor stand alone as an extraneous information. Effective supporting documentation should extend a reviewer's understanding of your written responses by directly connecting to aspects of the narrative where additional evidence, such as student data, may make your writing clearer. Ensure each page of the supporting documentation demonstrates the principal and supervisor of the year criteria. In some cases, you may identify that the written response prompts do not permit you to share characteristics of your leadership or specific experiences that fully demonstrate your ability to serve as principal or supervisor of the year. Like the best practice above, effective supporting documentation can serve to expand your reviewer's understanding of your ability to meet the principal and supervisor of the year criteria. To ensure reviewers understand what they are viewing and why it's important, be sure to provide notes with relevant information and context for any materials not directly addressed in the narrative. Back to that chat. So why might you submit supporting documentation? So you might support student data, connect the written responses for further clarification, evidence for the story in the written response, extending the written responses, evidence for responses to the question, student success, photos, etc. Excellent. Yes. So the supplemental documentation is just an opportunity to give examples to provide a more robust and elaborate perception of what you do in your school and district. All right. So you may be wondering how exactly the Part 1 application will be scored. Each written response question will be scored individually and be assessed according to the degree to which the response adheres to standard spelling, grammar, and punctuation conventions, answers the question clearly and concisely, and provides a compelling narrative that speaks to the applicant's ability to serve as the Tennessee Principal or Supervisor of the Year. The video response question will be assessed according to the degree to which the response has the following desirable qualities. Delivery is made according to instructions, topic, and time limit. Candidate displays qualities of confidence, optimism, and sincerity. Message is well organized, easy to follow and understand, and relevant. Then the entire application will be given a holistic score, including both the written response questions and the video response question, as well as the supporting documentation if it is included in the application. The holistic score will be assigned based on the degree to which the applicant demonstrates the Tennessee Principal of the Year or Tennessee Supervisor of the Year criteria. Each application will be reviewed by 2 to 3 reviewers from across the state, and the top 3 scores in each region will be selected as a region level semifinalist. All finalists will be notified of their application decision by April 12th, and the Part 2 application will be shared with the region level semifinalists at that time. Does anybody have any questions? You may put it in the chat or you can ask out loud. Anyone? Practicing my wait time. All right. Application states the deadline of March 17th. It's the March 4th date. It should be March 4th on the application as well. Where did March 17th show? So I can make sure that everything is consistent. Some of the stuff is published in like 400 places, so it's you gotta make sure. Of the PDF application online or in the electronic application that you submit? Okay, I will check it. So March 4th is the deadline. All right, any other questions? Okay. All right. Some more resources. The Tennessee Principal of the Year website and the Tennessee Supervisor of the Year website are available for more resources. There is the guidebooks that should be posted. They should be posted and working. And if they're not, please let me know. Additionally, we will have the third webinar series on April 23rd at 3:30 to go over part 2 of the application. And I also hold weekly office hours on Mondays from 3:30 to 4:30. I will not have office hours this coming Monday. I'm going to be out of town for a conference, so I will not be available for office hours. But if you have any questions, please email me. I happily will get on a call with you or whatever we need to do to make sure that you have all of your questions answered. So to wrap up, as a result of this webinar, what next step will you take to prepare for the Tennessee Principal or Supervisor of the Year process? Continue to revise and edit your questions. Begin working on your video response. Have application and submitted by March 4th. Unpacking the questions. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. If you have any questions, you may email me, sarah.brown@tn.gov. You also can call me. And then use the resources that you have. I'm also available on webinars on Mondays. With that, I'm going to stop recording.